and welcome back to Sharks Happen. On today's show, we are going to go over an attack on a swimmer, attack on a fisherman from shore, sea disaster, a couple other attacks, and then we'll go over what you've been eating shark at the end, have a few comments. It's going to be a great show. Stick around. Okay, we're going to start out the show. We are going to quickly head over to Wailupe, Hawaii. And the date on this attack is April 8th of 1954. Gordon Chun was out in the water. He was doing some fishing from shore, and he ends up disappearing. Somebody goes into the water to do a search, and 50 feet from shore, they find shredded clothes. What he was wearing, it was shredded. The researchers that looked at the clothes said it was shredding of a large shark, but they did find part of human remains in a 5-foot shark later on that was caught. I'm not sure if it was a tiger shark, and being over there in Oahu, you would think it's a tiger, but I do know that they have bulls in the area and they have great whites occasionally that come over from LA a lot. So from California. So that's the attack on Gordon Chun. They never did recover any of his remains other than what they got out of the 5-foot shark. And they have this thing down as, I believe it is, not really an attack, questionable. I don't think it's questionable. I think he was out there fishing. A large tiger came in, grabbed him, and that was it for him. They found his clothes just 50 feet from shore, shredded. So I'm going to put Gordon Chun down as an attack, a predation by a large shark. We just aren't sure that it's a tiger, which, 80% chance that it's a tiger. So it sounds like that a smaller shark ended up getting some of the remains, and we're going to get into that again a little bit later, where another 5-foot shark ends up with some remains in itself too. So that's the attack on Gordon Chun. That's how we're putting it down, and we'll move on. Okay, we're going to head over to Boca Ciega Bay, which is over in Florida. The date on this attack is June 6th of 1936. An unknown male was noticed out in the water being attacked by a shark. One of the first witnesses that they talk about in the story that I came up on, they were driving across this bridge, and the husband told the wife to stop the car. He wanted to check out this big, large fish that was in the water. So, you're elevated. He saw there was a large shark down there, not knowing there was an attack. They get out of the car, go over, and they start looking down, and they notice that he's being attacked by a shark. Now, they don't know whether he's alive or not. They said his head was kind of moving side to side, and his hands were thrashing the water. So it sounds like he might have been alive and trying to scare the shark away from him. But there was multiple people now that were watching this from the bridge, and I believe there might have been some from the shore, but he was about 300 yards reportedly from this bridge being attacked by this shark, and these people are elevated, they can see it. The next thing they see is the shark takes him under. And the woman that was sitting there said that she was looking for it. She's Mrs. Bobbitt, I believe her name is, and she's going to go jumping into the water to see if she can find the guy. She didn't see the shark, I don't think, and didn't know that there was a shark in the area, and she actually went into the water to look for it. I don't think she dove in from the bridge, but she is mentioned as somebody that searched for the body later on, so a good diver, I believe. So Mrs. Bobbitt says that she looks out and she's looking for him after he was taken under the water. He disappeared under the water, and she says, and it was a little bit of time, and he popped up over by some other area. So the shark took him somewhere, and now the husband, I believe it is Mr. Bobbitt, says that the thing he remembers is 50 feet of muddied water around him. So he's being attacked at the surface by this shark, and the gentleman is got a inner tube around his waist. They don't know who it is. Some people saw this guy walking through the campsite daily leading up to this, and he disappeared like days before. He would walk through the campsite and go and catch bait fish, and then he would walk back through. Well, this ended up stopping. Well, the gentleman that was being attacked had an inner tube on him, like he might have been out there catching bait fish, have an inner tube to make sure that you're not going down in the water. So this is why this attack kept happening at the surface, is because the guy had an inner tube on that was keeping him at the surface, and he kept being attacked there. And when they went ahead and they did the story for this, I guess they tried to get a hold, they got a hold of Mrs. Bobbitt for this, but maybe there was an inquest into this later on. But the only witness that they found at that time was a plane that was going overhead, and the pilot ended up seeing this video. So that's kind of like the first drone video of a shark attack, because I think Billy Horn, another one that was spotted by a plane, the family of four were together and they spread out right when they saw a plane coming, and that's when the sharks attacked them, ripping off little Billy Horn's arm. That pilot saw that. So it's like the third time people have seen it from probably too good a vantage point for their liking, I'm sure, especially that drone footage of the great white attack over in Australia that just happened. So that's the attack on the unknown male. No, they never were able to pin down this guy and even confirm that it was the same guy walking through their camp. Could be. So there's one that they don't know the name of. It's an attack, it's predation. Don't know the age, name of the guy. All we're going to know is Boca Ciega Bay, and the only other one I think we've covered from there was Thaddeus Kabinski jumping off of his dock and attracting a shark that was in his canal feeding. That's the attack, and we will move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to North Avoca Beach. That is over in Australia. The date is January 3rd of 2012. Mike Wells, he is 28 years old, and he is heading out surfing. He's paddling his way out. It's almost dusk, before 10 o'clock, but after 9 o'clock at night. So prime feeding time for smaller sharks that are going to come in and chase in their food. You don't really get great whites chasing food in at dusk. They don't work that way. They'll go wherever, whenever. But your smaller school sharks, I guess some people called them back in the day, you know, off of Florida especially, with the spinners and the black tips, they come in and feed at dusk and at the morning and dawn. So he's out there and he's paddling out, and witnesses say they saw a brown shark. They said it was brown in color. Came up and bit his right arm. His right arm was down into the water, so he's paddling out, his right arm's in the water, the shark grabs his right arm and has it under the board, and he's fighting the shark off with his left arm. I haven't seen that he was dragged off the board by the shark, but he was beating on the shark with his left arm, with his right arm in the shark's mouth. It was a pretty quick attack. He gets himself back to shore, gets in, he has 50 puncture wounds to his arm. First, with the brown color of the shark, they assumed it was a bronze whaler, but after looking into the bite marks, they ended up concluding it was a 2.2 meter, you know, 7 foot great white shark. So a little baby one of these, I say little baby because it's 7 feet. When they, you know, they'll add 10 feet to that if they stay alive long enough, and most of them do. But you see the rows of the teeth, and that's going to cause 50 puncture wounds when you get grabbed by the arm by one of these things, especially the smaller ones. They're already going to have these rows of teeth in the back, and it grabbing your arm, I can see how it gets hit by both of the rows on the underside and then the upper teeth. So he gets in, has some work done to his arm, rehabilitation. Didn't hear of any nerve damage, any ligament damage, anything like that. So hopefully he just got sewed up and he ended up surviving an attack by a great white. He said it was the shark was as big as his board. The other people estimated it was 6 feet. It turns out 7 foot great white by the tooth marks, tooth fragments, whatever they went by. So that's the attack on Mike Wells, and that's how it'll go down. Attack, not an attempt to predate, by an 7 foot great white shark. Okay, now we're going to head over to Turks and Caicos Islands, and the date on this attack is February 23rd of 2002. And this is not an attack, it's sea disaster. John Harding is with John Sutton. Phil Harding is with John Sutton and 2 other people. They're detectives or something, and they're out going on a fishing trip, the Turks and Caicos. They head out, and shortly when they head out, their boat loses power. They had lost their engine. And it was obviously rough out because they started taking on water. If you cannot point your boat at waves that are coming in and they're bigger waves than your boat is, it's going to start taking on water. And you might be flipped. Well, not only were they taking on water at the beginning, they got hit by a freak wave, you know, a lot bigger than the waves around there, and it capsized the boat, flipped them over. So now the 4 of them are in the water, and John Sutton decides he's going to try to swim for shore, which is probably a few miles at least, but he and another gentleman, unnamed gentleman, start swimming back to shore. They ended up finding John Sutton's body. He was attacked by sharks, by a shark. He might have drowned, been scavenged, but they found him with shark bites, multiple shark bites, and it sounds like multiple different sharks. They found his body. They didn't find the other guy that swam for it. Now, that was John Sutton that swam with the other gentleman that's unnamed. Phil Harding stayed with the boat with the other guy, and the 2 of them were on this boat 33 hours before they were rescued, staying with the boat that was capsized. There were sharks all around them at night. They talk about how, you know, Phil Harding says he could barely hang on. His buddy was telling him, hey, you can do it, you can do it. They would slip off and they'd be in the water with all these sharks, and then they'd have to climb back up onto the boat. So it doesn't sound like they had very much protection from the sharks, other than, you know, being able to hang on to the side of an upside down boat. And they didn't say what size it is, but, you know, I would imagine it's probably 20 foot, 23 foot, and something normal sized fishing boat. Fishing boats aren't really big when you're out there with center console boats anyway. So that's what I would imagine they were on, but just an awful ordeal. 33 hours looking at sharks around you most of the time, and at night especially. But at least they survived, and it reminds me of course, the reef, where they decided to swim for it instead of stay with the boat. And in the movie, they have the guy stay with the boat, and he ends up, I believe he ends up attacked too. He ends up disappeared in the movie. But in real life, the 3 of them swam for shore, and the shark bit the captain first, and then it took the other 2 in a span of hours along their swim back to shore. Actually, it wasn't even a swim to shore. In that case, they were swimming for the Great Barrier Reef just to get some kind of a protection from that very thing that ended up happening. So that's the attack on John Sutton. We don't know whether he drowned. It's very possible you drowned. If it's rough enough that it flipped your boat and it was taking on water just sitting there without having an engine, I would think that they, you know, it might be more likely that they drowned and scavenged than anything having to do with the shark. But with the sharks in the water, we'll never know. So it's a sea disaster, so those I'm going to keep separate from my normal stats once I get enough of this stuff organized, so that it doesn't go in there, because these people didn't go into the water, you know, by their choice. Just like planes that go down and everything else, I will cover them, I will record what happened to them, but I'll put them in their sea disaster category and keep them separate from sharks that are going after people in the water on purpose. So that's that attack, and we will move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to finish out the unprovoked attacks for the show. We're going to head over to the Madang province, which is over in Papua New Guinea, and the date on this attack, February 10th of 1996. An unknown 14-year-old boy enters the water, starts diving for fish. There's no real details other than when he was diving for the fish, he was attacked by a shark. The shark severed his leg, and he bled out before he made it to get help. You know, your leg severed, most likely your arteries severed, and you're going to lose a lot of blood quick, and that's why the water turns color when it does when sharks are attacking the people, is because it's doing things that are going to allow you to get rid of all your blood is faster than somebody can get out there and help you. So 14-year-old boy, tragic. It reminds me, Papua New Guinea attacks are just brutal. I mean, we're going to get into them a lot in the non-identified shark worst attacks that we've covered, because that's going to be the biggest list of them. There's probably going to be 25 of them in there. I can think of so many off my head. Not 25 in Papua New Guinea, just 25 sharks from all different areas that weren't identified what species did it. But there's some bad ones that we went over that we just don't know what kind of shark did it, but they were awful attacks. So they haven't been covered in the tigers yet, or the bulls, or the great whites. And the other thing is, so this 14-year-old boy is going down as an attack, not an attempt to predate. We don't know what size shark, we don't know what type shark, but a fatality, unfortunately. And now to move on, we'll just jump right into the end of the show here, and I'll finish it out with the what you've been eating shark. So yeah, Papua New Guinea is a bad one. That's where we're going to end up running into the Teresa, the youngest shark attack victim ever, which is just an awful story. It's going to be the third time I tell this one, and not good. And we'll get into a lot of them now. I'm working on the sharks that are identified that aren't the big three. So a lot of them, and that's what I'm working on right now. I got to get a lot of information on those Sharm el Sheikh, all those attacks over there that happened, most of them in 2010, within a week of each other. And getting news articles on it is sketchy. Even getting good, reliable website coverage is kind of sketchy too. Can find the Sun, can find things that exaggerate, so I can't really go off of them. So I'm still looking for stuff, but that episode is almost ready to go. I was hoping to have that one out now. We got hit with a heat wave here like you wouldn't believe, and it wasn't the heat. I love heat. It was like 97. I think we broke a record yesterday. It was 90 something before. It was the mugginess. It was like the Keys in summer, where you could take a shower, get dressed, you're inside your air conditioning place, you walk outside and boom, you're wet in like seconds. It wasn't seconds, but it was close. So it was almost as bad as muggy Keys heat days. Let's get into this real quick, and then we'll have a couple of comments and end the show. The what you've been eating shark, this is early February of 2025. They discovered, somebody caught a shark, and they opened up the shark and they found human remains in the shark. The human remains ended up having a tattoo that they could see, and they were able to identify, what's his name, Diego Barria. Diego Barria. This was early February, and then February 18th, I believe it was February 18th, they found the remains in the shark. Then they pieced everything together that he was last seen down the coast at a beach riding his ATV. So he's riding his ATV, the last people seeing him, and he ends up in a shark. And not a big shark, a little 5 foot, they call it a school shark. So it doesn't even sound like it's one of the big three. You say a school shark, and I start thinking your spinners, your black tips, your, just those just everyday sharks that are all in the area feeding. But they said it was found in a school shark, so I don't even know what kind of a shark attacked him. And it reminds me of the one we just went over in the bull shark episode, Nicole Moore, when she was over in Cancun. She was playing volleyball, went in to rinse herself off. The two or three jet skis came over shouting at her to get out of the water. Boom, she's bumped and bit twice, and loses her arm, and surgically amputated because there's so much damage, and loses a chunk out of her leg. Sounds like the same thing that happened to this guy. He might have been riding around, got hot. I mean, it gets hot when you're underneath that sun for an extended period of time, and you might have went in to take a little bit of a dip and ran into some, either drown or was taken by a shark. Either way, no way to tell. But I am going to put him into the stats that he was riding his ATV, and then later on his remains were found, at least partial remains were found in a 5 foot shark. Something that identified him, tattoos. So that's the attack on Mr. Barria, and that'll end the show with the what you've been eating shark. Unfortunately, he ends up at least partial food for a smaller shark. So now a couple of things I watched. I watched the Meg too. I had to. I watched the Meg, and you're not going to do that great with a fake shark in the first place. But the first one, they kind of did a little bit of trying with it. The second one was kind of like what Jaws 3 was to Jaws 1 type thing, and the Meg wasn't even no Jaws 1, it was maybe Jaws 2, 2.5. It was closer to 3 than 2, because you can't do all that stuff with CGI. So I watched a Meg 2. Entertaining, I guess. I liked some of the scenes where the shark was eating people. It was kind of cool. I'm not into that thermocline and all that stuff about some prehistoric shark that's disappeared millions of years ago being in the water, but I guess it's entertaining. I would give it about a 3.9 out of 10. So that's where I would rank that one. The original one, I would put it at a 5 because it was cool to see such a big shark, but they didn't do a very good job on these sharks, I don't think. So I watched that. People have been sending me, and I've seen it before, Emma the Shark. So I wanted to get into these guys, and we're going to talk about Shark World, which is MBs and everybody else. There's a massive problem with these people, and the things that they're telling us. Still to this day, they say mistaken identity. And the thing is even the tiger, the bull, you can dive with them. And people will tell you, and these Shark World people, they will tell you how stupid these sharks are. Yet when people get bit in the buttocks, like we're going to go over in this next episode of the worst attacks, we went over non-big 3. They get attacked in the buttocks and bitten in the hands, which happens in almost every shark attack that's multiple bites. You eventually reach out to defend yourself. They claim that these sharks remember that they were hand-fed and that the people kept the food. Which is it? He's blind, yet, you know, he can see that we're seals somehow. He's got all these senses and mistakes us for things. And yeah, well, blind, I can't believe how they say that they can't see. So I have an issue with that. I saw a comment. I don't know that I went through my comments in the last, after the first couple days that the last video was out, but I did see a comment that bite and wait happens, and that they bite. They saw a huge whale, and I've seen that video too. The whale was already dying. It was pretty much suffocating. The shark came up, bit him in the tail, and this huge whale that's 10 times larger than the great white is sitting there bleeding out, and the shark is waiting for it to bleed out. Well, then you go into the other things, because he said, I think the comment said seals, that they do the same thing. No, they don't. They treat seals like they treat us when they're out to feed on humans. All the pause is, and a lot of the seals are, the shark is swimming below the seal while it swallows whatever it bit. And a lot of times they're biting those seals right in half. And they need time to swallow it. And what you guys think is biting is their action pulling the food down their throat. They're not chewing their food. They're just pulling it down their throat. They swallow things whole. So that's what they're doing. And they need time to do that before they return. Unfortunately, that's what we saw with Simon Nellist right there in front of us, is that, you know, the shark did some major damage to him, but the pause was that shark dealing with what it took off of the body. Same thing I've seen with the seals. And I also, when I was looking into this, is what I looked into when I looked into that the sharks weren't attacking, never bite a live manatee. I wanted to see how they treat these other things. So I looked into this guy that he's from Australia, 5,000 that year. He witnessed 5,000 predations by great whites and makos on seals, and there is no bite and wait on any of them. And he knows it's just destructive as could be. And so they do bite and wait with large whales. They do bite and wait with elephant seals. Those things can harm them. They got tusks. They got to avoid these other things. Sharks are pretty careful. So they're biting their tails. It's not biting their midsection. You see what I'm saying? They're not going up to them and biting them in the midsection. Yet attacks on most surfers are basically on the midsection, on the boards part of it. They're not going and biting the feet that are hanging off the back. They're biting the people on the board. Different than they attack something that they're worried about. Because when they attack something they're worried about, they're going after the tail. They are messing around with those things. Even elephant seals. Elephant seals, the females are as big as them, and the males, one or the other. and the males are about 2/3 the size. They're not small, the elephant seals. And then you have the sea lions, which are kind of in between, I think, elephant seals and seals in their size. But anything 6 feet, that shark's just going to attack. There's not going to be no worry about anything, no bite and wait. And in every case there's ever been on a surfer, there hasn't been a shark go up to a bite, go sit over and wait and come back. And why would a 12, 14, 16 foot shark need to wait anyway? I don't buy it. I just think that they're all territorial. So there's a lot of stuff. You know, it's not just bull sharks in fresh water I don't buy from Shark World. It's most of what they're selling. Most of what they're selling, because we haven't ran across most of it, and we've covered 1,000 attacks. If there's bite and weight, we would have seen it. If there's mistaken ID, we would have seen it. If there's bulls in fresh water, I would have found it. I found a lot of stuff saying that people said that there was bull sharks in fresh water, true fresh water, but the one that they gave Professor Thorson, they gave a building named after him over in, I think it was University of Nebraska or somewhere, but he's got a building named after him. But he was claiming that these bull sharks were breaching up sets of rapids to get into that Lake Nicaragua. There is no way. That's not going to happen. Sharks' most delicate part of their body is their stomachs. They're not going to be bouncing them off rocks to get up there. Nobody challenged him on it. He had cameras because he took a picture of bull sharks, but not any of them in the water, not any of them with their fins in the water. No, they were up on some deck. So there's not any proof that bulls were ever in that lake. And then you go 15 years after that, and then the people that lived there are trying to catch them to prove that they were there. And then you find out that a lot of the people that were saying that there's bull sharks in there, it's because they were getting their boats hit by large fish. There's huge tarpon in there. You ever see people holding the tarpon? You're not allowed to remove them from the water, so they'll leave the bottom part of it in. But they'll have 6 feet of this fish out of the water, and its tail's still in the water because it's illegal now, I believe it is, to lift them up out of the water there fully. So there are large fish in there, and it seems like anecdotal evidence that proved there was bull sharks in the first place. And where are all the attacks? People are in rivers all the time. You ever hear of one attacked by a shark? Modern times? Anywhere in the U.S.? Neither have I. So that bothers me more than anything. So that's that. And then there's one more thing I wanted to get into, because this is my favorite book ever. This Great White Shark book. As you can see, I have pages that I have sticky noted for things, but this is like my Bible on these boys. This thing is awesome. So then Bonnie, I think I first said Bonnie from Arizona, but she's Bonnie from Virginia. And she sent me a lot of stuff. She's made up mugs for me. She made up a t-shirt for me. These cup holders in your car, these little things that sit down in there to keep your cup from being on the plastic. All kinds of stuff. Well, she gets a hold of me and she's like, hey, I got to send her shirts. She gets a hold of me and she says, I got this book I want to send you. And it's signed by the authors. It's that Great White book. And sure enough, and this thing is in mid-condition. My paperback has seen better days. This thing is like a brand new book, and it's hardcover. Mine is paperback, and it's signed by both Richard Ellis and John McCosker. It's to this other guy, but I got a copy of this book now, thanks to Bonnie from Virginia sending me this autographed copy of my favorite book. How often do you get that? So thank you so much, Bonnie. This is so awesome. And now I have my book that I can use for my research, and I can have this one where I have all my other shark stuff, where a lot of the stuff that you made, your mug and some other things are sitting there. So thank you so much. That's the show for today. If you need any merchandise, jump on eBay. Pull Up Sharks Happen. Should have the logo on it. The pencil just say Sharks Happen. And until then, remember always, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of these sharks than they are of you.